Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Zach.
I'm also Zach. You guys can call me Keenan, though. It's my last name.
And first off, we just want to thank everyone for being here. This is an insane moment for us, and it's super surreal to be speaking here at the Ken. So another thank you to the Ken as well for allowing us to be here and sit on this stage and share this stage with a lot of people who have done great things. So appreciate everyone here.
Yeah, we're excited to go over, pretty much the opportunity that automation presents. And, a lot of people talk about the AI opportunity. We want to talk about the automation opportunity over everything. And we're going to be going into give you guys a good understanding of how to build AI automations, right? And, understand the way we think about attacking problems, especially for business owners, and taking their manual work and reflecting that into an agent or an autonomous system, right? And then at the end, we'll open it up to discussion.
Yeah. Before we get into anything, I think it'd be important to talk about a little bit background of us. So we grew up childhood best friends. We played on the same Little League baseball team together, and then we went to the same middle school together, and then the same high school together, and we kind of grew up alongside all of our best friends, and we have the same core best friend group to this day. So it's pretty cool. We have a good friendship, and we started business together. Our first company in February of this year, we started a media company called Under 30, and basically what we do is we feature young entrepreneurs and kind of just highlight their story and grab insights on how they've been able to become so successful at a young age. And then this past July, we started Aupra, which is our AI automation company, and the reason why we're here today. And we've been doing those both simultaneously for little over 8-9 months now.
Yeah.
So it's been good, a lot of learning, and hopefully we can share some insights.
All right. So we're pretty much going to be demoing or just going over this build right here. And for anyone that's not aware, this is the inside of N8N. This is what it looks like when you build, a workflow or an agent. And the example we're going to be showing is just a simple voice to calendar agent. So for a lot of people, let's say a business were to come up to us and say, hey, I just hate typing my calendar events. I hate typing this stuff out. I wish AI would just do it for me. I just want to speak into something and it'll be done. That's what this agent will do. And honestly, this is a really simple one. You can probably get this done in an hour with no experience, because I would say majority of everything you see there is a template. And it can be templatized, or AI can make it for you very, very quickly. Now, just to show you the capability of what you can build in N8N and what we're doing with our clients, this is an example of our most recent client and a system we're working on. And as you can see, that is a lot more complex and there's a lot more things going on there. But when you understand the fundamentals behind it, you're, literally 3 months ago, I had no technical experience. And now I'm building working systems for, business owners and interior designers, architects, things like that. So it's crazy what you can do on N8N, and it's the barrier to entry for anyone that's never used it before. It's so low. It's so low. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and before we get into the demo, I think it's important to talk about the opportunity that AI automation presents. There's 2 opportunities that I think are huge right now. Obviously, the AI opportunity as a blanket statement, where a lot of people are building softwares, platforms that have AI integrated into it, and they have these features that are really cool and they're really innovative. And I think it's all great, but hopefully this doesn't ruffle anyone's feathers. But I think a lot of the times it can be harder to find product market fit, because you can be building something that's really cool and really innovative, but at the same time, if you haven't done validation beforehand, it's hard to know if people really are going to want your product or whatever platform you're building. And so that's why I think automation is extremely extremely important because it's such a foundational and fundamental piece of operating a business. As AI continues to grow every single day, things are going to get automated more and more, and business owners are going to start to automate anything they do not want to do. And so I think this automation opportunity is unique because I think every business owner is going to need some sort of automation into their company. And if you can really just jump on that opportunity now, in the era where people don't really know what automations they need, then I think it's a golden ticket. So
Yeah, and it's still so young. It really is. I think when you're kind of in the AI bubble, for us, we see videos every single day. We're seeing, here's this new product, here's this new tool. This tool doesn't work anymore. Stop using it. Go use this other thing, right? There's a lot of noise. I really think there's a lot of noise out there, and there's some good value in things you can learn online and things you're hearing online. But I really think when you step outside the AI bubble, it's so young. It's so young. Every person we talk to, every business owner we talk to, they don't know anything. They know nothing about it. And for us, we're like, how do you not know how to write a basic prompt? Why you don't even use ChatGPT in any other way than hey, how do I do this?
How do I respond to this email?
I think when you're in the AI bubble, it's so easy to get lost in that. But I mean, I think the people in this room, we're in LA, we're in the heart of, innovation and, besides San Francisco, right? I think the people in this room are driving the innovation forward. And how many of you guys have used N8N or built a working automation before? And when we're up here saying we really think this is the next thing, I mean, I think it's proof that it's
yeah.
So
And another point on how young it really is, I think at the Kin you can get an interesting perspective because you're surrounding yourself with other people who are so deep in this technology and know pretty much all the latest advancements, right? They understand that OpenAI or Anthropic are releasing new models every single day, and it's very easy to get caught up in the idea that, man, I'm surrounding myself with so many other like-minded people, and it's easy for you to apply that to the world and think that everybody knows about this technology. Every business owner is already using all these latest and greatest software platforms or whatever. But I think once you remove yourself outside of this community, in this bubble, and you start talking to really everyday business owners, just your brick and mortar business owners, none of these people have a clue what AI is or what it's doing or how they can implement it. So if you can come to them from a perspective of, here, I'm gonna hold your hand and show you what you can do with AI, and especially AI automation, then they're gonna love you, and they're gonna, they're gonna be willing to throw money at you.
Yeah, I think just very simply put, automation is gonna be the most practical for them, and they're gonna get the most use out of it. And that's from our experience. Obviously, we're in the space, but yeah. So I think I want to just go over what today is kind of going to be about. I think we don't want to teach a bunch of button clicking on how you go step by step into getting your credentials. And if you don't know what a credential is, we'll explain it. We don't want to. I don't know. It's there's so many videos on YouTube that you can watch that will give you a step-by-step guide on how to build a workflow or an agent. And to me, when I was building like that, it always felt like I was copying someone else's homework, and I had no idea what I was actually doing. I would get a working agent like we're going to show in our example, but I had no idea what I was building, or what I was building in N8N. And so that's what we want to focus on, is how we're approaching problems and debugging and understanding the flow of data more than really anything else. Because, just to be honest, when you get into a build, you're going to face problem after problem after problem, and you can go to AI and ask it for solutions. But when you work on higher level, builds, it is never giving me the correct thing. I always have to work it out myself. And I think when you really want to build a real working automation for your specific use case or someone else's, we're going to go over like the process and how we think about attacking those.
Yeah, I think a lot of building workflows is just persistence, because like he said, you're going to run into problems that you have no idea about. And I think the biggest thing is just keep going forward, just trying to do your best and figure out what the problem is, because sooner than later, like you're going to figure out what that is, and you'll be able to obviously move forward. And one thing a couple things I want to touch on before we really get into the automation is there's a point on the other slide. I don't know if we can go back, but yeah, I want to touch on like the fact that we're proof that you can start with actually no technical experience. So I'm certain that everyone in this room right now probably has 10x the technical experience that we do. Just as an example, I started using a computer like 8 months ago. It's crazy. I don't know. I
do the technical builds, but I mean.
Yeah, he does. I don't really touch N8N anymore. He does the technical builds, but literally 8 months ago, I really started using it every single day. And I was able to hop on N8N and build a couple workflows, and they worked. I mean, they weren't the most valuable, but if I was able to do that and go from step one to a finished build, I'm sure everyone here can do that as well. And one more thing, I want to talk about the hype. If you do look into AI automation and you go home and you want to research this stuff, you're going to get a lot of this, a lot of, like Keenan said, noise. There's going to be a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different, ideas just floating around. A lot of people are going to be selling you a bunch of hype things that just don't matter and aren't real.
Yeah, how to make 10K with this agent in your first week. You know, like that's just
it's just
bunch of BS.
They're just selling you hype. So I think, especially in something like this, as it's so new, it's easy to get caught up in those. I guess you could call them traps.
I would say for anyone out there, because like I said, we're going to be explaining the process of attacking like problems within a business. One of our friends, Nate Herc, I don't know if you know him, if you've looked at N8N, material, him and his co-founder Millen, with another co-founder, they probably have one of the leading automation companies. He makes videos on the click-by-clicks. Like go watch his videos. I mean, a presentation from us isn't going to give you anywhere near the value he gives in the details of how to build. Let's say you want an email agent, step by step. You can go do that right when you get home. Hopefully, we leave you with the understanding of what you're actually doing. Nate Herc, Nate, and then HERK. Yeah, literally. By the way, I learned every single thing from him. It was crazy. We met him like a couple weeks ago, got to interview him, and those guys are really pushing, I think, the future of automation, as well.
Yeah.
So good resource for anyone that wants to go and see some more. Talk about this.
Yeah. So there's obviously a lot of different no-code tool builders. You have, obviously N8N, you have Make, you have Zapier, and then there's others that I forget the name of. But the reason we choose N8N is because of its easy to access. It's super intuitive. Anybody can start using it.
And you can start a free trial for 14 days. Literally right when you get home. Exactly what we did. I even did it for 14 days. I ran out of 14 days free. Got another one on a different account, did another 14 days for free. So
yeah, you can run it up.
It's super easy to get started, and just from our research and what we've heard in the community is that N8N is outperforming those other tools. So ease of use, its power, it works.
Yeah,
stick to one tool. Also, like you can go into a bunch of different ones, find one, specialize in it, and if you want to start your own company. You'll be able to do a lot.
True Horizon, they actually do monthly testing of all the platforms for tool building, and N8N comes out number one every single time. And so even as there's new ones coming out and new advancements and stuff, N8N still reigns superior. So
yeah. All right, so I'm gonna just go into like very surface level stuff. Kind of things that you need to know from a technical perspective. And, I'm sure like you guys in here that have experience with coding and data science, it's going to be very like beginner. But for people that don't know anything, like if you're jumping into N8N for the first time, these are some things you're going to need to know. Like a lot of the work is just understanding input, output, and the flow of data. That's pretty much majority of what I do is tracking. In that big system you saw, it's so easy for me to get lost when I'm working with, this data is changing constantly, and I made a change on step 20 that affects step 1 through 10, and I have to be able to go back in and figure out those changes, and it's all just from like understanding how data is moving to get input and output. JSON is just basically, I would say, a way of structuring data. When you're building an N8N, I could show you a little example over here. Like, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a more detailed JSON string, right? I think the best way to understand it, I don't want it to get confusing for anyone that doesn't know, but it's really just keys and values. So a key is the title, let's say name, right? Associating the data as name. And then the value is what is my actual name? It's Zach Keenan, right? And if I were to write that, in order to make your build work, you need to clearly say, okay, JSON.name is the input for my calendar attendee, right? It's the input for my calendar attendee. And that classification will then be associated with what is that actual name. If that makes sense. I can explain it a little further later, but you're working with nodes. Nodes are these things right here. They're nodes.
Yeah.
And the links in between them are sending data through from one tool to another. You have credentials. Credentials are basically, let's just call it your key or your password to bridging from data from one tool. So let's say Telegram or your QuickBooks, right? And it's connecting your QuickBooks account, your Telegram account to N8N. And it's bridging, basically sending data back and forth between the two. In all your builds, you're gonna have to, put in unique credentials. For us, like one of the reasons we would love to like show you a full like click by click also, but that's like a very just tedious thing that if anyone were to take out their laptop, you have to follow a very strict tutorial on. But it's easy when you have something to follow.
Yeah, I think going over workflows and agents, there's a distinction between the two. I think workflows is just a set, it's just a workflow. It just follows this exact path. And then when you start adding agents into the mix, this is where LLMs can decide on its own terms and choose which direction it wants to send this data.
Yeah. You're basically giving the LLM access to tools now, and you can give it a wide amount of tools, so then it's deciding on what to do with those tools. And I would say that's giving AI the decision-making power on what things are executing would be the biggest distinction between an agent and a workflow. Workflow is very like confined, set parameters, right?
But I also think if you do start building on N8N, it's important not to also get caught up in the hype of building really, really cool agents with a bunch of different nodes and doing all these crazy things, because that way you're just increasing the probability of hallucinations and mistakes. And when you do that, your desired output probably won't be there unless you like really safeguarded the prompt and curated a prompt in a really good way. So I think you can get a ton of value in just creating simple workflows that just execute on basic tasks and remove, if you're trying to remove time from your day,
Even when you see like a Nate Herc video, you'll see this huge complex agent. Like, don't start with that. Like, start with a simple workflow that's maybe like 5 nodes, 6 nodes, and get that to work, and then start building on top of that, you know. That's gonna set you up for success in the future. Now, I'm gonna go over prompting a little bit later, but if you understand kind of these core things, then, and I'm gonna introduce like the way I look at automation, and that's that it's really doing, I mean, there's 5 things, but I break it down into 3, and that's it's able to read, right? It's taking in data, reading, understanding what to do with that data, and then it's able to decide and, you know, okay, I have this input, now AI is deciding what to do with it, right? And that's where you prompt, okay? Then it acts, right? It acts on your behalf based off of what you've, you know,
Wanted to do.
Yeah, framed it to do. And then for anyone else, like for today's purposes, that's mainly what we're going to be focusing on. But in the future, it's able to remember, and then it's able to learn off of that memory and past executions. And that's kind of going to be the true future and power of it going forward. But yeah, I mean, back to this example, I just want to make it so that anyone that looks at this and thinks like they have no idea what all these different nodes and connections are doing, you understand this one, and I'll try and break it down into that read, decide, act as well, and it'll give you hopefully a decent understanding. So pretty much what this workflow is doing, and like I said, this right here works. You can just go, talk into your phone, say, hey, schedule an event with Peter Parker and on October 10th, and it will go do it for you. So right here, this is just a Telegram node, right? And when I spoke about credentials, you have to add your credential to this or it's not going to work, right? And then basically, so when we're working with clients, they have their own way of doing things or they really want to speak into it. This one, we're doing an audio file. Logically, you would need to think, okay, for right here, the agent, the only way it will work is if you're feeding it in a very structured or you know,
Defined pathway.
A good text input, right? You have to transcribe the audio, right? You have to transcribe the audio. That's what this is doing. This node is basically just saying, is this an audio message? Is this not an audio message? If it's an audio message, let's transcribe it. If it's not an audio message, just send it directly into the agent. That's pretty simple, right? For the actual agent part, you're going to have a user prompt, and then you're going to have a system prompt. Now, the user prompt is usually, most of the time, you don't have to write a hard-coded user prompt. I mean, for me, what we do is the user prompt is just going to be that exact text input. You just have to use a JSON, right, to tell it that, okay, use this Telegram message that has that text associated with it. And the system prompt is where you're instructing the agent on what to actually do with what these tools are connected to, and give it context. I'm going to go into a little further detail afterwards on, how to prompt it in the best way possible. But yeah, it has a system prompt, user prompt. You tell it what tools are connected. For this, we have a database, and we have the calendar node. And in the database, really all that's in there for a very simple one is you have your name, you have your email of, let's say, all your employees, right? Every single employee in your company, so that if you say, hey, schedule a meeting with, Hallie Rochelle, it's going to know what employee Hallie Rochelle is because the email is associated to it in the same database, if that makes sense, right? It just goes, oh, Hallie Rochelle, here's the email. And then, as long as it's prompted properly to put that into your event, your calendar event, it will do it for you, right? And I think, it really isn't that crazy when you think about it. all you're doing is giving AI the ability to look at your data and take action with it and you know, make and do things with that, you know, on a high level. You know, just so I cover everything, we have the model. We're using OpenAI. You know, you can use literally whatever. We don't get into the technical details of what LLM is better for this purpose. Like, we found most of them do majority of the jobs perfectly well. I mean, we don't work with creative side, like the creative side of things. We're all like back-end admin stuff, so I think, you know, using certain LLMs for creative abilities, that's when you probably want to look into a little bit
More into
make better choices on which one you're choosing. And then memory, you know, you're not really going to need it for a simple build like this right now, but all that's doing is it's taking past executions and past chat threads, storing it in a database so that it could possibly use that if, like, given context to use it in the future. Yeah, and then the end, it's just replying with a simple message back to you saying, hey, your event's been scheduled. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty simple. Now, I'll just break it down a little deeper. Let me go here. Now, I want to say like 3 main tips and ways that, like, problems that I'm always facing, because like I said, I think what I'm going to touch on here is what actually happens when you're building an automation in N8N. And it really is like problem solving, like I said earlier, but a very common thing that happens when you're building an automation. Now, not for something like this. This is a template, right? This is simple. Like, you can do this super easily, but when you're building your own, the biggest thing that I do, and I'm sure a lot of like beginners will do, is they have, let's say, point A and point C, and point A is the telegram and point C is the agent, right? They don't know that point B exists, okay? So in their assumption, they might be trying to tell the agent to first transcribe, then start working and checking the database and going into the calendar event, right? But ChatGPT might not be telling them that this is wrong. Like, this happens to me all the time. Or they don't know that this is wrong because they've never done this before. And you have to really, like, you're going to face error after error. Like, there are times I'm working on builds, and for 3 hours, I can't get, like, simple things to work, and I try everything. Every time that happens, it's only because I haven't broken down the problem enough and realized I need to be doing step B beforehand, right? And if you can take that away to not even just like N8N, but life and in general and everything, like, it's gonna make your builds, your processes much better. Now for prompting, I think a very simple tip: have background information, have context on what's going on, have tools, like tell the agent what tools you have attached. You kind of need to do that so it knows, okay, you might have one calendar node that says you're creating an event, but you might have another calendar node that says search all of my events to see when I'm available, right? You want to, but those might be 2 different nodes. You have to very strictly define that in your prompt, or it might be like, what do I do? And then you're getting an error, right? Now for prompting, I have like a PDF. I didn't really plan this, but if you want, I could send it to like whoever's interested. I basically broke down background, context, instructions, tools, and examples. And what I do for all my prompts, I just take this PDF, put it into ChatGPT, tell it my problem, say, give me a prompt that follows this exact framework, and that will work for, you know, the build that I'm working with. And it gives me something perfect pretty much every time. Like, if you don't use this, always have examples. Like, examples are gonna help over everything, because if it knows, let's say, one input is create a calendar event with, you know, Hallie Rochelle, and then another text message might be create a meeting with Hallie Rochelle. Those are two different ways of speaking and typing. If you don't prompt it with examples and say, you might be getting different inputs like this, for these inputs, the example should be the same every time. It's going to make mistakes, like I promise you. That's when you start getting hallucinations, and I know, things like that. And you hear hallucinations, like no business owner. That's the biggest thing, like that happens when we talk to them. They're like, how do you ensure, like, when we're sending an email, that automatically that it's not being all
doing something you don't want it to do.
Yeah, and for a business owner, that's their biggest concern. So examples and this framework makes it, I would say 95% of the time it's gonna be good. Now let me go back here. For this act section, just another tip here, and remember that's like, this kind of applies to everything. That's very strictly for the decide, but for act, like, you're going to be working with a lot of tools and working with dynamic data. This is like, if you can see that in the top right, that's the inside of a tool in N8N, right, in a node. And there are a lot of times where, see what it looks like on the right? There's just so much going on. That's what it looks like on the left is the input. And you have to go in and either, by the way, simple N8N tip, this is why it's so easy. You don't ever have to write the JSON. You can just like slide the summary thing. You can just put your mouse on it, slide it into where you want it to go, and it'll put the data in there for you. I mean, I didn't know that like the first 2 weeks I built, so it saves a lot of time. And yeah, I think for our tool, like for this one, you can just like have AI automatically define what is supposed to be executing, right? So my point is for this act section, for the calendar, you need very simple rules. Like you have your time that it starts, the time that it ends, you have the date, you have a title, you have the attendee. In the act, in the tools, you have to just make sure that all those things are properly there, right? And then that data is correct. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I think like a more advanced level is when you start working with third-party APIs or nodes that aren't native to N8N. Like Google Calendar is easy. You can just press sign in like a normal Google. But if you're working with QuickBooks, well, QuickBooks is in there. We were working with FreshBooks for our client, and they don't have a native node in N8N. That's when I start like, I don't know, running into a lot of problems, and that's when it gets a little more advanced. But yeah, it's cool. You can start playing with other tools that aren't in N8N and go from there. So
yeah, I guess we can get into applications. So let's just say you build this automation or you build a automation. I think depending on who you are, there's a couple different ways you can go about it. I think if you're an existing business owner already and you build this system, you can then apply it to your operations and free up some time for yourself, which is always great. The second one, if you're an employee, I think if you're working under someone else, maybe this is a little controversial, but you can automate a lot of the stuff that you just don't want to be doing for work. Maybe they're paying you for it, but I don't know. AI is a real thing now. Yeah. And then if you want to start your own AI automation company, you could go out, build for other people and get paid for that too. And there's a lot of different kind of challenges and roadblocks you're gonna run into, especially when you're trying to sell and you're trying to outreach to get clients and have them not be defensive and not feel uneasy about the product that you're selling. So I think one thing that we've really adopted in our selling and in our outreach is framing our initial outreach. Instead of framing it as, hey, I'm going to build you an invoicing system, you frame it as, hey, I'm going to build you invoicing automation that's going to save you 15 hours a month and in turn save you $20,000 over the course of a year. And once you start selling them the solution, not the system, then they're going to be able to really want to hear what you want to say and really be interested in the systems that you're selling. So I think you got to be very cautious with how you word things, especially to business owners who aren't tech native at all and don't use any sort of technology or AI.
Got to tell them about our first sales call.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our first sales call, it was a few months ago, and we hop on this sales call. We practically didn't qualify her at all. We get on the sales call, and the first things she says to us is, "Oh my God, you guys are babies. I have 15 minutes, and then I got to leave. And I hate AI. I think it's going to destroy the world." And
literally her exact words.
Yeah. And so we were just about hit with every objection in the book right away. And we had her on the call for 45 minutes. We probably would have closed her if she actually didn't have to
Got
leave.
a phone call, but she left.
But I mean, the important point is, like, once these business owners truly see what you're selling them, like they're willing to jump in, and they're willing to, like, be all ears to what your system does.
Literally no one in here wants to be doing a bunch of manual, tedious work, and that's like our sales point to all these businesses is like, if I'm telling you, you don't have to spend an hour each day doing your calendars, like, who's not going to want that, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's really the power of it. And yeah, I mean,
I think another good point to talk about, if you do want to start your own AI automation company, is to niche down. There's millions of niches out there, and you can really jump into any one, and you'll probably be the only automation company automating for that niche. That's why we're so big on the opportunity, is because nobody is really doing this stuff. And if they are, they're most likely doing freelance work, maybe on like Fiverr, Upwork, stuff like that.
Yeah, not really framing it as their business.
Yeah, it's just they can build an automation for whoever. They're not niching down, and I think that's really where the money is, niching down. And one thing you'll experience is when you start talking to the same business owners over and over again. Say your niche is HVAC, right? I don't know what problems they deal with, but if you talk to 100 HVAC business owners, you're going to figure out what problems occur over and over and over again. And so once you build that system, that automation one time, well, the second client is probably going to need the same automation you built for the first one. And so
your time for build is way less.
Yeah.
Like, after I built the invoicing automation for our first client, now I can just go sell that to every single interior designer that
needs it,
is logging their time hourly, manually. Now they can just speak into it, right? So you build it once, you can pretty much productize it and send it, like, share it with everyone else. Mm-hmm. And for any of, like, the technical people out there too, from a business perspective, it's smart to niche down, but you also know you're working with a bunch of now unique data that only you will understand, and that you can now turn into actual new systems for them and better automations. And ChatGPT and a lot of other surface level general tools are not going to get that insight and that data better than you working on a unique custom solution for people in your industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think the idea of niching down is really, it's just huge. I think you're gonna, if you do it, like, you're gonna make so much money, especially if you're technical enough to, like, build pretty complex systems that solve really important problems for these business owners. I think, I don't know, I could talk about it over and over again, but I just think it's really something that's special and it's unique to the opportunity today.
Yeah, and it comes from a place of, like, I think a lot of beginners, and we're young, like, for under 30, we're trying to speak to the younger community, the people just starting out in AI, and it's a big mistake. Like, big mistake I made, I feel like big mistake a lot of people make, is they want to do everything and,
serve everybody.
Niche down. But I think just the last point before we get into talk, open it up to questions, is it really feels like this is an old school business model. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, but when it's so foundational, I don't think it's like a tech company, a SaaS that you need. Like, you don't need any funding, really. I mean, it's a service-based business, right? But it's this high-level tech AI thing, but it feels like I'm selling, a simple tailoring service to someone, or like something like that, or it's so like
It's very straightforward.
very old school. And if you look at it like that, I think our perspective, it was a big choice for us. We literally started with, we wanted to make a general product for automation for interior designers, and we came to the conclusion, we don't want to make a general product. We want to do custom one-on-one, and that was a key decision we make. So if you think that might be something you want to do too, we would recommend that. But
I think that's a great point about starting or thinking of an idea of creating a general platform for whatever type of business. I think a lot of people go down that route, but especially as we've talked to more and more interior designers, there's all these platforms like House Pro, you got Studio Designer, you got MyDoma, that have these AI features inside of them, but every single business owner is telling us, like, they don't go far enough. Like, I want them to actually do my invoicing, not just have this feature.
Already do it.
Yeah, and so I think when you go to a business owner and propose to them, here's a custom solution directly tailored to how you work, well, they're just going to love that. I don't want to be spending $80 a month on this subscription that barely even works for my business. So, custom automations.
I mean, that's our presentation. So if you guys want to ask questions, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know if this works for businesses that need to be HIPAA compliant?
No, bro.
Okay.
Like I said, I mean, dude, we're 2.5 months into this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry.
We know our niche,
I didn't
and we
mean
know
to put
our
you on the
stuff.
spot. Just wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Explain to me what HIPAA client is.
HIPAA compliance is like in the world of medicine, and it's about people's personal data regarding their health history.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I'm just curious, like if.
Well, I think one thing we've seen on the N8N cloud, I think they have, I think it's like GDPR compliance and then
basic
CCPA
data
compliance.
privacy.
Yeah, it's like basic data privacy stuff.
But you can self-host on N8N, which is probably one of the biggest things. And the reason they do that is because when you have very strict data privacy laws, security laws, you need more control over when you're working with clients that need to meet any regulations that you might have. So that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Self-hosting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If that helps.
To add on to his question, because I was curious about the data privacy part too. So for what you're building, how are your tokens stored, and how long does the data flows kept for the automation run?
I mean, we limit our tokens for certain builds, just so financially, we look at it as a financial cost thing. I mean, as long as it's giving us the good results. If you're looking at, are you talking about financially or?
More from a data privacy. Like, I just want to know how you guys are thinking through it as you're building this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like we picked a niche that we don't have to
Have a ton of credits.
a ton of credits, but a ton of regulations, and they don't really. I don't know. Like it's a
niche
fine
that
line you walk.
yeah.
But what I will say is, there are tools that you can use that give you access to other AIs, but it's through a third party. I think Ollama, if anyone knows more about this than I do, Ollama is a third party kind of tool that connects to all the different LLMs, but it's on their own home database, possibly, not sure. And for security and privacy reasons, I think people use that. But hit me with the technical questions, bro. I started this 2.5 months ago. It's okay.
Okay, thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
My question is around the self-hosting piece and also the community edition instance of N8N. and like the feature set. Like for a community edition, if you wanted to go just straight up hosting yourself and not paying N8N for their hosting or whatever, like what is the feature set parity for like a, you know, the basic or the starter plan or the pro plan or the business plan versus, you know, that community edition that's even registered?
Yeah.
I think the starter plan is 24 a month, but this is hosting on the cloud, and then the business plan, I think the one up is $50 a month.
Yeah.
And then
You have enterprise option.
yeah, enterprise I think is something like $800 a month.
But for context, like we don't self-host. There's not really. We've been advised by multiple people now that we don't need to self-host. The cloud's perfectly fine, and that's what we're doing. So that's why I'm not probably educated on the self-hosting side of it, because we just use N8N Cloud. Yeah.
When you guys were talking about A to C, and then
Yeah.
you don't know that B exists, well, how do you learn that B exists and that you're supposed to do that? Is there an AI sort of instructional element to it that tells you, hey, I want to do this, or I want to take this, I'm going to turn that into this? Will it tell you or break down those B steps,
What I do,
or you Google it?
I take screenshots, I put it into ChatGPT or Claude, ask it, I give it my problem, I ask it to break it down. The thing about identifying B though is there are a lot of times I can't find B with Claude and with ChatGPT and with AI, with what I'm trying to find out, right? My basic advice is you go so many times at the problem, you realize something's missing. A lot of the times it's just, I take that problem and I say, I ask the question, what are the pieces of this that are missing and that maybe can be changed in a different way to make this work? A good example of this would be for the FreshBooks API that I was referencing earlier. It wasn't letting me get it wouldn't let me get the data in their invoices that is already existing. And it also wouldn't let me just add a single line item, which is a huge problem. Like the whole point of the automation is, hey, log 5 hours for this project, right? It needs to be doing line items, but it wouldn't let me. And this was a problem I was facing. My solution was just that I created a database that's just storing everything. So then each time, what FreshBooks would allow me to do is put all the line items in at once. And so I put the database, and each time it's going in. And if that helps, like I created a new system for something that needed to be so simple that AI was telling me every single time, like, no, just do this, do this. And then I did some more research, and I realized I couldn't do it.
Because I've used Make and I've used Zapier, and usually
Yeah.
what I do is hire somebody on Fiverr to fix whatever I couldn't figure out.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to do that.
Yeah.
The other question I have, your clients, how do you kind of overcome, a lot of people are talking about privacy and things like that, but how do you overcome the, giving AI access to my contacts list, my email, my calendar, my finances, that all it's one of the reasons why I haven't done any of this stuff yet, because I'm a little nervous about giving AI that kind of information.
Yeah, I think onboarding and trying to get credentials for clients is probably one of the hardest and toughest roadblocks you'll face. Just because you really have to scope out the project that you're doing before and understand what tools you are going to use. So and then prepare yourself and understand, like, how am I going to get this client to use this tool and allow access for their credentials.
Yeah.
But I think a good way to go about it is you can share projects, which allows them to go inside N8N and input their credentials themselves. So there's no, like, I'm sharing passwords with you and that kind of stuff. It's they're able to do it on their own, and it works for you and your system.
All right, this is going to be our last question, but Zach and Zach will be sticking around to answer more.